Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Movie Mates podcast. I am Matthew, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend,
Callum.
Callum. We did it. We've hit a landmark. Half a century of podcasts, buddy.
Yeah, 50 episodes, 108 subscribers. I think we've hit our peak. There's been some highs and lows, some dips and rises, but I think 108's the highest we've been. Fuck my life, the highest we've been at.
Absolutely. And on the podcast there, we've got our first non-human guest in the podcast with this guy.
Matthew loves using his animal for views and for women. He just loves to do it.
Hello everyone. I've got his ball up on the camera, so that's why it looks like he's looking directly at our souls. But yeah, I'm gonna let Ollie go now. But yes, we're back with another podcast, and this is gonna be quite a candid one where you get to know us a little bit more. And I'm super excited for this one, buddy. And for the viewers, I suppose this is the first time they've actually seen our faces, isn't it?
Yeah, you've done some teases. There's been a couple of smaller episodes where you sort of tease our build at least, and
exactly.
then cover the faces. So yeah, this is the first time they're seeing our voices coming out of these faces, and very soon you will be seeing the two of us and a very special guest, Cash, talking about The Kissing Booth, a wonderful foray into film. So that'll be up around this Friday or the end of the week at least. So look forward to that, and look forward to meeting our friend Cash.
Absolutely, buddy, absolutely. And yeah, like, I'm so excited for today's episode. We've talked a lot about this one before, like off the podcast as well. And shout out to everyone who's listening right now. We really appreciate all our friends, our families and stuff. And yeah, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and email us at moviematespodcast@gmail.com for any podcast suggestions or questions, all that good stuff. And yeah, thank you for everyone who supported us along this journey for the podcast. It's been good fun, and I can't wait to get into this episode. So yeah, Callum, do you want to explain to the viewers what we're going to be talking about today, then, buddy?
Well, with this being the 50th episode spectacular, we thought we'd give you as much content as possible. Delve into us as deeply as we could. So we're going to be doing a 2-part episode. The first will be just a standard list of get to know you questions with some suggestions that were given through the YouTube comments and through Facebook. So we'll be sharing those with you. Telling some stories. Hopefully, you're going to get to know us a little bit better. Then coming soon, we'll be hitting you with part 2, which will be a lot of would you rather type questions. To sort of get to know our brains a bit better. This episode will be about our life. That'll be about how our mind works, how our minds work. We don't have one. Despite many people calling us the other person's name. Well, I mean, it's more people call me Matthew, because they just see me as an extension of you.
No,
that happens a fair bit.
We're a unit, here in the podcast. We're one. Yeah, one item.
Well, it's called Movie Mates. There's 2 of us. Get it right, kids. Isha, if you're watching, you know who you are. Shameful.
We love
shameful.
You. Yeah. So Callum's very kindly got some suggestions for us today. He's worked hard in getting the questions and suggestions from Facebook. So shout out.
Yeah, sure, I have.
To you, buddy. Appreciate it. And yeah, so I'm really excited because I actually don't know these questions that you've prepared for us. So I'm really interested to see what you're going to be asking here, buddy. It's going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah. So the first the majority of the questions I'll be asking you today are just taken from the internet, but there are a couple suggestions thrown in here and there that we've had in the YouTube comments. And that I got from some people on Facebook.
Sure.
We were both part of a Planet Broadcasting Great Mates group on Facebook. So it's sort of about the podcasts on that network. Yeah. And sort of an offshoot of that group was another group where people just support fellow podcasters. So I spoke to some of them, and they gave some suggestions.
Awesome.
So to kick it off, I found a list of 100. I've instantly knocked about like 50 of them off because they were dog shit. I'll read out the especially shit ones, just for our pleasure. But the first is, who is your hero? And because this is the Movie Mates, let's hear your filmmaking hero or your actor hero. Anything in the movie business.
That's a big one, buddy. I would say right now it would be. That's a really good question. I would say right now, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, because he's sort of in a similar sense to, like, you know, what we do here in the channel. Like he's got his own like YouTube channel called like Hit Record. I don't know if you're aware of it, but like he does like creative projects where he gathers fans from all across the world to like do projects together, be it videos, music, podcasts, and it's such a great platform. It's very similar to Planet Broadcasting actually. And yeah, obviously like very talented actor, you know, very talented director, and he's just generally seems like a really lovely guy in interviews as well. But I would say childhood hero, that's a really interesting question actually. Steve Backshall from Deadly 60 used to be my hero. I used to be big in the animals, but then he had arranged to come over to Belfast for like a book signing in Waterstones, but then he cancelled last minute and decided he was going to go to Belfast Zoo instead, the bastard. So he's no longer my hero. He's but no, he was my hero back in the day because he was quite an adventurer. He was like the kid version of Bear Grylls, I suppose, on the CBBC show. But no, what about you? What about you, buddy? I know you've got some great ones, but I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, definitely filmmaking wise, I'd have to go with Jon Favreau, just because you know he not only directed Chef, which was you know the best film of that year, aside from About Time, which I believe they both came out in 2014. But you know he also established the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which you know I've enjoyed for you know the 12 years that it's been in existence. I mean, I'm slowly starting to waver on it now, but you know it certainly defined part of my childhood, and you know sort of got me into the movie industry. But you know, as you can sort of see by my t-shirt and by my background, I don't know if he's in shot, but you know, actor wise, it's got to be Tobey Maguire. You know, just
Absolutely.
because he is the definitive Spider-Man. He was my Spider-Man. Spider-Man has always
That's
been my
great, man.
favorite superhero. That was the first superhero film I ever saw. You know, Sam Raimi holds a lot of responsibility for that, but just you know, Tobey Maguire's youthful exuberance, phrase that we love to say. You know, his you know bafflingly silly portrayal of a teenager you know, defined a certain part of my childhood. And I think
That's
he'll always be my
fantastic, Callum.
favorite actor in some regards.
That's fantastic, Callum, honestly. And you know, we've sort of talked that we've sort of taken the piss out of Toby before in the podcast, but I think we can both understand he is a very talented actor and as well, and he can definitely hold the emotional scenes really well. But that's so great to hear as well, because I think he was a staple for a lot of our childhood, especially you know the early 2000s kids. You know, he was our Spidey. So no, that was fantastic, Callum. Honestly, man.
So moving on, the next question is, what is your favorite family vacation? Obviously written by an
Ooh.
American.
Favorite family vacation. That's a good one. I would say for me, it's not actually a family vacation, but it was when it was when I went to Cambridge with a few so it was sort of like friends and stuff, and then like people from different schools, and that was fantastic. But also spending the summer with you at like NCS was probably one of my favorite. Like I suppose it's not really a holiday, but I suppose it is in the sense that you know we packed luggage, we had like our toiletries, you know we went to we were by ourselves, sort of with people our own age. So that was a really good experience, and I think that was really a very character building summer for me personally. And I know you're probably the same. I think we both came out of our shell in that instance. And we've made so many great friends, like Cash in the podcast. You know, we'll see him soon, and you know, it was a very character building summer, and a lot of great people there. And but yeah, I'd say Cambridge University number one, and then NCS too. What about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, if you can take NCS, you know, if you can interpret that as a vacation, certainly, you know, as a character building experience, I definitely agree with you. That would have to be my favorite because the only other holiday I've had aside from that was going to Paris, which you know, in theory, beautiful, wonderful trip.
Absolutely.
You know, but when you get lost in Paris and have no clue where you're going,
Oh man,
not a
must be
good
frightening.
experience.
Must be really frightening.
Yeah, because I have to assume that none of my family had been there before, but you know, it was quite a nightmare.
Yeah, man, it's a city of romance in many ways, Paris, and it's somewhere I'd love to go in the future just to see it as a spectacle. You know, Eiffel Tower um and you know the Louvre and stuff. It seems like a fantastic city.
Yeah, we sort of got to the line of the art museum, but you know we didn't actually go in, didn't see the Mona Lisa, saw the Apple Tower, didn't go up it, hugely underwhelming. Landmarks, I think, you know, for the most part are, you know, just you know they're setting you up to feel, you know,
Yeah,
you're gonna go and be
be
underwhelmed.
disappointed.
Like, have
Yeah,
you ever encountered a landmark that actually, you know, had the scale that you expected it to have?
I would say for me, I'm trying to think. Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, it's built up as a really big spectacle in this country. The eighth wonder of the world and so on. But I'm not a huge fan of it. It's just for me, and this is a very ignorant perspective because I'm not huge into geology. But it's just like a few cool looking rocks. Really, for me, I'm not a huge fan. What about yourself, man?
Yeah, no, we have friends that love geography that are planning to study it at university level. But,
Yeah.
they would fully agree that land masses like that are scattered across the world. So it's kind of odd that there's even a focus on something in Northern Ireland, and they sort of say that people are just obsessed with it because it's like the one thing about Northern Ireland that comes close to being interesting.
Yeah.
In its current state, because
Yeah, absolutely,
obviously
man.
we have an interesting history. But right now that would be one of the few interesting things about it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So the next question is, there were a lot of questions about career, and obviously you have your current job, but you may not want to say positive or negative things about it, in case
Because I get
certain
fired.
people watch it. So yeah, so for your future career projections, whatever those are, maybe you want to share those, and like what are you excited about, to do with that?
That's a really fantastic question, buddy. For me, I'm not like I don't know what I want to do yet. I just know I want to be happy, which is a very cliche thing to say, but for me, I think my happiness is always going to derive never from my career, never from money. It's just going to be from who I share my time with, like you and hopefully a wife in the future and stuff. So that's sort of where I would get my happiness from. And yeah, for me, obviously, I suppose we could, I could end at the site if needs be, but we're planning to share our future together in the sense that we're both going to uni for the same course.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
and and yeah, so it's going to be interesting, like so many new experiences there. But no, I don't know where I want my career to take me, to be honest. What about you, buddy? Any ideas?
Yeah, as you said, we're both studying the same thing. Just by coincidence, we both recognized its value in opening up doors for potential career opportunities. So it wasn't a sort of codependency idea of like
Yeah.
we have to do the same thing. Which I know certainly some friends that are sort of like linked life wise feel the need to do that, but that wasn't really the idea behind why we both chose to do that.
Mhm.
I highly doubt that I'll go into a career from the degree that we've decided to study. But I was considering maybe going into youth work because of how much I
Awesome.
enjoyed
Yeah.
experiences like
That'd be great,
NCS.
man. Yeah.
And I think the degree that we've chosen will be helpful because it's really about eloquence, persuasion, debate, and I think that really does open a lot of doors. And using those skills that I enjoy using, I think will hopefully lead to the happiness that you said is obviously very important.
Absolutely, man. That's fantastic. I can really imagine you as a really great youth worker, to be honest, buddy. Like that would be fantastic, especially if it's in the program that we had shared experiences with. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, the program that you're talking about, as our friends will know, we had a great experience with all the leaders there. So if either of us could get involved on a
Awesome. Yeah.
voluntary or you know on even a voluntary basis, I think it would be a great opportunity.
Absolutely, Callum. Absolutely, man.
So yeah, I am just having to like weed through the shit of this, but we do have to sort of establish a base level of knowledge about us. So I
Sure.
will
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
will be asking you some trivial questions. But what is your favorite book to read? So basically, just what's your favorite
Ooh.
novel?
Favorite novel? That's a good one. Okay, so for me, favorite novel. Well, what one that I really did enjoy. I'm not sure if it's my favorite, but we both studied English for obviously GCSE and then A level. But for me, my favorite novel was Of Mice and Men, John Steinbeck, absolute classic American tale about the American dream, and the movie is actually fantastic as well. I'm sure we'll cover that one day on the channel. And yeah, it's probably one of my favorites. Although when I was a kid, I quite liked Michael Morpurgo, his sort of book. So I love
Hmm.
Running Wild. It was a fantastic book in my youth, and also as I was a keen football fan, as I am now, and the Dan Freeman, Jamie Johnson books, I love them. And yeah, they're my personal favorites. What about you? But I know you back in the day you were a huge avid reader, so I'm sure you've got a great collection. And I know you've met some famous authors as well.
Yeah, I did read a lot. I didn't always enjoy what I was reading. Often I felt like I was just doing it for educational purposes.
Hmm.
So I didn't often enjoy it. But as you said, Of Mice and Men, that's a great choice because, and as you said, the film is pretty much a one-to-one adaptation. It's probably one of the most accurate and most respectful adaptations we've seen probably. And you know, as you said, we did study A level English, and you know, as part of that, you know, we had to read several books of our own choosing, and one of which was 1984 for me. And you know, I've always been a fan of dystopian fiction, and I would have to say that that's probably the one that I've enjoyed most. There is a solid, like, it's about 350 pages long. There is about 10% of it that is just like incomprehensible drivel. Like, it is really shit. Like, it's, you know, there's part of it that's like a book within a book, so you're just reading this absolute nonsense. And you know, for that part of the experience, that wasn't great. But you know, aside from that, you know, I love that novel a lot. And you know, as you said, I have met a few authors, you know, a few children's authors, like Mallory Blackman, you know, the previous children's laureate. You know, I
awesome,
had a nice experience where she signed my copy of Pig Heart Boy, so I was very happy to get to have that experience.
That's brilliant, man. Yeah, 1984, it's one I haven't read, but you know, absolute classic in modern literature as well. And George Orwell, you know, very talented guy. So I'll definitely have to read that one in the future for sure.
Yeah. So the next question I have for you is, we've talked about career, you know, career aspirations very, very recently. So I was wondering, what did you want to be when you were a child?
So many things, buddy. You know, I think at one point it was definitely a footballer. I think every you know, boy who grows up in Northern Ireland who plays football always wants to be a footballer. So for me, captain of Manchester United, well, that was one. I would suppose at one stage, it was comic book writer. You know, big into the comic books, as you can see in the channel. So like anything involved with that. But yeah, I'm trying to think anything. I think in particular.
I mean, Matthew, does the name Matty J Raps provide any memories?
I forgot about that. Yes.
Does that conjure up any thoughts?
What Callum is referring to there is during and this is actually more recent, so it actually is quite embarrassing. But when I was about 11, I wanted to be a rapper in a similar vein to, I suppose, who was big back then. Like Tiny Tempo was probably pretty big back then. You know, Jay-Z, Kanye. So yeah, like that was sort of my and I actually released like it's not released. I released it to myself. I created like a little bit of a rap demo called Matty J Raps. So actually, and no relation to Matty B Raps, who I later found out was also a rapper on YouTube, I think. But no, yeah, those three were my three career aspirations back then. What about yourself, buddy? I'm sure you've got some good ones.
Well, Matthew, just to go back to Matty J Raps, I do know a few select people have heard that demo, but I have not. So I was just wondering, is there going to be any point at which you release that on the channel? You know, maybe when we hit 100 subs. Sorry, no, 100 episodes. I mean, not 100 subs.
100 episodes. You know what? If I can find it, and I'm generally not lying here. If I can find it, 100 podcast episodes, that'll be released. There's an incentive.
Has my audio been shit, by the way? Because
No,
I just realized, like, I can probably get some books to make it sound like that. Like, would that be
sounds
better?
Good so far, but if you want to get books, buddy, you work ahead, pal.
I'll just be like 30 seconds.
No worries, man.
Yeah. So, had we finished on that last question we were doing? Oh, I hadn't said my career aspirations. So yeah, sort of like you. You know, I'd gone through sort of quite a spectrum of ideas. You know, obviously like the traditional, you know, ones that are foisted upon a boy, you know, sort of fireman, police officer.
Sure.
You know, had sort of those traditional ones, but you know, often, you know, when I watch films, you know, had the idea of, you know, potentially being in that kind of position, you know,
absolutely,
you know, be actor or director or something. You know, now neither of which I know that I don't have that talent to do that. You know, I mean, you know, maybe in the future some creative projects with directing or something. You know, might be interested in.
You've worked in student films before, but you've worked with Cinemagic, another local corporation with movies, and you know you've done great things there, buddy. And also you've got a very analytical mind and with movies as well. So I wouldn't rule it out in the future, buddy. I think you definitely have a future there for movies or whatever you fancy, man.
I mean, you know, aspirationally, but yes. To move on. I was wondering, if you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One meal for the rest of my life? Medium rare sirloin steak, chunky chips, tobacco, onions, and pepper sauce. Rest of my life, man.
Tobacco? He likes a cigarette, does he?
He likes a cigarette, you know me. What about yourself, buddy? What about you? For like the last meal or rest of your life?
I mean, it would just be my mother's spaghetti bolognese. I mean, obviously, you know, that amount of beef, not good for the insides, but for both of us probably. Probably a little too much beef, but what can I say?
Man, she seems like a talented cook, I tell you. She seems very talented.
Or a Sunday roast dinner, because then at least
Classic.
you're getting the gains.
Absolutely, man. It's the good thing about the Sunday dinner is you've got your vegetables, you've got the gravy, you've got the protein. It's you've got the carbs. It's a win-win in many instances. You've got the full package.
Yes. So the next question I have for you is: have you ever had a nickname, and if so, what was it? No, I know we both had nicknames that derive from our surnames. So if you don't want to share that, that's fine.
No, I'll go for it.
But if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, so my nickname at school and sort of later ends of primary school was, whoever's listening who knows us, was Jeffrey, and I was never actually 100% sure where that came from. It was a weird one, and people still comment to this day, and it's not a nickname that I have particularly hatred for. It's not bad, and
Yeah.
I think it derives from sort of my surname in a way. I don't know, but no, it's Jeffrey is mine. What about yours, buddy? Have you had a few?
I mean, that I've had a few. The worst being Kylie Minogue, which is a derision of my surname, and I don't want to see a resurrection of that nickname.
Yeah,
So
fair.
don't fucking at me with it. I do not want to hear that nickname again.
Yeah,
But that was sort of the bane of my existence for about 5 years. So yeah, that wasn't a pleasant time in my life. But that is one nickname that I do have a
sure.
disdain for.
Yeah, nicknames are very hit and miss, aren't they? Like, you can definitely get like a really bad one that just brings back bad memories for you. You can have one that just like sticks with you for life, can't you?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. So Matthew, we all know that you're a born sportsman. Uh, you know, from the face and physique, you can tell born athlete. So my question is, what is your favorite game or sport to watch and to play?
So that's a great question, man. For me, always football. Always football. I was mad into football sort of throughout my early years and then into my teens, and then sort of lost it for a few years, and then now recently in the last few months or so started to pick it up again. And yeah, love playing sports. And yeah, something about sports. It's the competitive aspect, and like I've heard I've heard a lot of sports people talk about, like, you'll never like regain the adrenaline of feeling like scoring a goal. And obviously, when I was playing like for my local team, it was never of the likelihood of a Wayne Rooney or an Alan Shearer or a Ronaldo or something. But for me, it was such a great team dynamic. Like the friendships that were built there, it was fantastic, and some of the best memories of my life were playing for local football teams. But what about you, buddy? What about you?
Well, yeah, you know that I've never been much of a football guy, and I've never been much of a kicker. So I would say that my favorite to play would probably be tennis, just because I
Good
think I think
shout, man.
there's a bit more reaction time, to sort of get to the position to hit the ball.
Sure.
Whereas with football, I'd probably struggle with the running and the kicking. I think it's too much for my brain to process. But to watch, I've only ever actually watched live. Uh, well, I've seen obviously rugby and football on television, and that was sort of no interest to me.
Hmm.
But from a live position, I've only really seen ice hockey, and
Oh yeah.
that's honestly amazing. I never thought that I would sort of get the sports camaraderie and like the energy of the the way people say you enjoy sports more when you're in a crowd because they're sort of that mob
Atmosphere.
mentality.
Hmm.
And I sort of did
Great,
actually feel
great
that for the
point.
first time, which I never expected because I've never been much of a sports fan.
That's fantastic, man. Yeah, especially in the country we live in, the Belfast Giants. It's becoming more Americanized, and stuff like that. And it's such a great, I think we've been to a few Giants games, not together, but we should definitely go one time together. And it is a great atmosphere in the SS area. It's fantastic. And I actually I don't know anything about ice hockey, but those guys are super talented, I know. And it's a great watch, man. It's a great watch.
Yeah, definitely. And Matthew, we've talked a lot about career, and we're going to continue on that train. Would
Awesome.
you rather win the lottery or work at the perfect job? Obviously, we'll be talking more would you rather's on our next episode, but just for one related to career, how do you feel about that?
It's a great question, man. It's a great question. For me, uh, call it naive, but I would say perfect job, because there's the old line, money can't buy happiness, and that I think that definitely rings true. And I think perfect job, you know, as long as you're financially, you know, comfortable and, you know, you've got a great, you know, companionship with your colleagues and you enjoy your work, I think that's just perfect ideal. What about yourself, Callum?
Yeah, it's sort of difficult to say. I feel like had you asked me this before, you know, lockdown, I would have had a different feeling because, you know, I feel like we've sort of lived a life of, you know, having literally nothing to do. I mean, you of course have your job, but, you know, I don't have anything, you know, beyond, you know, watching movies to do really. So I've sort of led the existence. If, you know, if I were an adult without a job, and, you know, it wasn't a life that I particularly enjoyed having. So, you know, I feel like, you know, as you said, if I was financially secure, financially comfortable, I would probably prefer the perfect job.
Yeah, I love the way you put that, buddy. And yeah, it's sort of weird because we sort of have sort of in the last few months we've lived in a society where there's limited things you can do. You know, we couldn't even see each other, and it's very reflective time, I suppose, for a lot of people. So it was you know, in a weird way, I was sort of like thankful that it all came about because I think a lot of people sort of were, as I said, you know, more reflective and changed a lot of things about themselves. So you know, it was a blessing and a curse, I suppose, in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, you know, being a movie channel, we talk a lot about time travel, sort of the mechanics of that,
Yeah,
films that are related
yeah.
to that. But the real question is, if you were to travel to 1 year in time, where would you go?
Oh, such a good question. Ooh, I would say one year. So are we talking about an event or just 1 year?
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, you know, don't leave it to like a decade, you know, like go for 1 year. But if you
Okay.
want to like see like someone get assassinated or something, or you know, something a bit less dark, choose the
Choose
year
a
in
event.
which that happened.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say for year, I one of my favorite years, or like span of years was like 2007 to 2009. So I'd love to go back to like maybe 2007 because that was, I don't know, something about that era that was just before smartphones, and it was sort of like for our generation, it was like the peak of, you know, like old things like DVDs and stuff like that. And that's before a lot of big technology became integrated in society. You know, Google and stuff was sort of in its infancy, and certainly YouTube was in its infancy. So yeah, sort of 2007 probably. What about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, I suppose if you have to like go back and live the year, you know, you have to live the full 365 days before you sort of like return to modern day.
Hmm.
You know, it would be a point in the 80s. I don't know when exactly. Um, you know, because I would probably choose like, you know, uh let me think, 1983. And there's a specific reason because my dad would be 18. And
Oh,
I
that's
think it would be
great.
awesome to party with my dad.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
like
man, your
go to a
your
club,
dad would be a
go to
party.
a club with my dad and listen to some, you know, truly amazing music.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's so sweet, man. That would be great because yeah, like I think your dad would be great on a night out, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I'm hoping, you know, I've obviously never been to a club or a party with my dad, but you know, I feel like the only time that's probably acceptable is like a bachelor party. So you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I think if we could hit the town, if I were ever in that position, I think
Awesome,
that would
man.
probably be a good night.
That's such a great shout. Absolutely. Absolutely, brother.
So you know, the question here is, how would your friends describe you? You know, maybe sum it up in 3 words or so.
Oh, how would my friends describe me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I would say, well, that's a really, that's such an interesting question. I would,
You know, you can either go like super humble or super arrogant. You know.
I would say, um, I would say busy, um, hardworking, and then put like a little
There's a wee
dash.
hyphen in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then maybe Mm, I don't know, like loyal. I don't know. I don't know.
I
There's a,
mean, you know, do you want to say loyal? Like, are you like refraining from that because you think? I mean, I don't think loyal is like an arrogant adjective.
well, I'll go with those three because it's a hard one. Like trying to go between like super super humble or super arrogant. Like which one I go for? I'll go for
Yeah,
those
because
three.
I
I'll go for.
mean,
What
you
about
know,
yours?
like maybe let's do sort of reflective thing where we actually share what your friends would say.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, you know, what people would actually say about Matthew is genius, Greek god. You know, I think that would probably be, you know, the most accurate.
Oh man, you know what? If I could describe that, that's I wish that was true, but Thank you, Callum. And for you, I would describe you in 3 words, man. I would say hilarious, emotional. I think a lot of people don't see like the emotional deep side of you. I would say really just caring. I honestly think those 3. So hilarious, emotional, and caring, I would say for you.
Yeah. Do
How
I
would you
do I go
describe?
super arrogant?
Go for it.
I'm
Go
not
for
going to go super arrogant because
it.
there's words that I would use to describe myself that would be very self-deprecating. So I would say people would probably say like insecure, and then as you said, so some people do tell me I'm humorous. So
Absolutely. I
let's go
can see why.
humorous.
Funny guy.
And grumpy would probably be another one because I think I'm cracking cracking jokes, cracking wise as much as I can, making jokes about myself and about the situation and stuff. I think people recognize that sometimes I'm just done for the day. Before it started, I just can't take any shit that day.
You know what it is, man? Like for the viewers listening to this, Callum is honestly the funniest person I've ever met in my life, but he's also the kindest person I ever met in my life. Like if I was in trouble, I know I could ring Callum up at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and he would be there to chat to me. And he's such a great guy, and he doesn't get the love he deserves in the channel. So if you're listening, comment in the comment section if you know Callum or you don't even know Callum, just let him know how much of a great person he is because he really does deserve it. He won't say it himself, but I'm gonna say it for him.
And Matthew's a wise, lovely young man. People have described him as model-esque.
Well,
Anytime there's a moment where he's caught off guard, someone takes a photo of him. We were in Dublin one day, in Ivy House, which is sort of the building which sort of political places run out of that. And people just snapped some candids of him, and people always reference that as though he was starting the catwalk at Milan. So Matthew's a good looking fellow. One of the smartest guys I know. People say he's the nicest. I say people say I agree, of course. That he's the nicest guy we've ever met.
Thank
And
you. Thank you, man.
I think you don't. I think you don't see yourself the way everyone else does. So
Thank
I
you, brother. That means a lot,
I just hope
honestly. That's so kind.
what a beautiful soul you are, sir.
Thank you, Callum. I appreciate that. And we're not gonna cry in today's podcast here. We're not, Callum. We're not gonna cry.
No. So the next question is, what are your hobbies?
Okay, hobbies. Well, obviously the podcast is probably the biggest hobby I have at the minute. But other than that, yeah, watching movies, obviously, and then the podcast. What else do I like to do? I just like hanging out
We've
with.
talked about your sportsmanship.
Yeah, sports. I used to play a lot of sports, and obviously, like hanging out with you and our friends off screens, a good hobby. And then obviously, I don't know if a job counts as a hobby, but yeah, at McDonald's, that's a few times a week. So yeah, that's probably the 4 I have. What about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, I would say mine are pretty identical. I feel like probably most people's top favorite hobby is usually a sport. We know horse riders and football players, hockey players. And I've just never really gravitated towards a sport that I sort of identified with.
Sure.
Matthew, can I just ask, do you have a black eye?
No, is it I think it's a shadow with my hair.
Yeah, it's just the shadow of your hair, but like it looked like a proper shiner.
How long's that been like that for?
Well, like the entire podcast, but I thought like just a sort of insight to our life. Yesterday we were in the park, and we were sort of kicking a football about, passing it around, and like a couple of times our friend Isha got a couple whacks to the head, and I was worried someone had retaliated at the end of the day.
Oh, but yeah, no, it's thankfully not a black eye, which is good. Have you ever had a black eye yourself?
No, I don't believe so. I hope that I've given one, because if I've ever hit someone in the face, they deserved it. Have you,
Yeah.
Matthew?
Never, man, never. So, yeah, still waiting. I've never broken a bone. Actually, have you?
No, I haven't. I mean, I would have thought you're doing a bit of contact sport. I thought that might have gone with the territory.
No,
Because
man, not strangely not.
we've known several rugby players that sort of like they're shattering like their collarbone and like fucking up their entire leg.
Yeah.
Like we know people that are just sort of like
Absolutely.
half
Been through
metal
the
by the
wars.
end of
Yeah.
their rugby playing career.
Absolutely, man.
So what is the best gift that you've ever been given?
Best gift that I've ever been given. I would
We'll rule out like technology, because like if
okay.
you're going like my
Such a
laptop,
good
you know, I
question.
think there isn't much substance to that kind of gift.
I would say the best gift I have ever been given. Hmm. Well, you know, I see when you're younger, I would say my favorite Christmas gift that I've ever got was from the I don't know if you remember the Mr. Men, I'm sure you do. And there was like
Yeah,
a Mr. Happy toy. I really like that. So that was one probably a childhood. But other than that, probably the best most hilarious gift I've ever been given was when you gave me a locket of you and then a mutual friend of ours, and it was reminiscing the
I
scene
forgot about that.
from Spider-Man 3 where Flint Marco's daughter gives her dad a locket but of herself. So that was hilarious. You know, we both have mutual Spider-Man 3 callbacks throughout our lives, so that was hilarious, man. What about you?
Do you still have that locket?
I still have that locket indeed. Yeah.
I genuinely completely forgot about that, because I knew that you were probably going to say something that I'd given you, but I completely forgot about that. And like, what's the line that she says to him as she hands it to him? Is it like "I miss you, Daddy" or
I
something? Because
think so.
like
I think
whatever
so.
it was, I said that as I slipped it into your
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah, I actually another favorite gift of mine was from our mutual friend Chris. Chris is a lovely guy. If you're listening, Chris, you're a legend, man. And he had given me a Ryan Mark from The Apprentice T-shirt.
Oh
He's
yes,
an icon of ours in our friendship group. So that was probably another great one.
I
What about
think
yourself?
that like I'm sorry to correct you, Matthew. I believe the mug was from Chris and the T-shirt was from Kira.
Sorry. Yes, because I knew they had given me two like Ryan Mark inspired gifts, so I think I must have got them wrong way around. But yes, Chris and Kira absolutely smashed it. Shout out Kira as well, absolute hero of ours. And yeah, those two, Ryan Mark, gotta love them. What about yourself, man?
Gotta love them. And yeah, so I would probably rate, you know, two experiences with gift giving at the same degree. I would say my favorite gift of all time would be the Tobey Maguire cutout, which is in my background. I don't know whether
Thank
it's
you, sir.
visible. I'm sorry, I keep knocking into my mic. But is it visible in the shot right now?
It is indeed. Hello, Toby.
Okay, yeah. So that was of course from Matthew Jess, and from Matthew.
That's okay.
Cut
I
that
can
out.
keep that in. It's fine.
That was of course from Matthew, and I always have it. I have it on my windowsill, and sometimes I like face it out, you know, into the public. But I always see, you know, people looking up from the street at it,
Yeah.
and you know, so sometimes, you know, sometimes I like to face it out just to fuck with them. But you know, right now I moved it to my DVD collection so that
Love
it
it,
could
man.
be visible in the shot. And I would say the best gift experience would have to be from Christmas of 2018, because you know my brother completely unprompted. We had never given each other a gift before. You know, we had sort of, you know, we'd developed a bit more of a friendship. You know, because
Yeah,
I think you know sibling relationships they grow and develop, and I think when you're both
absolutely.
adults, you know, it becomes more of a friendship. And you know, he just like sort of tossed a package at me, which was like, you know, it was used wrapping paper that was held together by rubber bands, and he just like fully like winged it at me, and it was a
Yeah.
Deadpool comic, a Hufflepuff pin,
Oh,
and a mug that referenced like a scene from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is my favorite. That
that's so
sort of said
nice. I
like,
didn't. I don't. I've never heard this story. This is great.
yeah, and you know, there's a scene in Brooklyn Nine-Nine season 4, where Captain Holt, you know, says to Detective Diaz like, "How dare you, Detective Diaz? I am your superior officer." And then because she suggested that he go home and have sex with his husband, and you know, and then he just screams "bone," like you know, it's a very iconic scene from the show, and you know, it was a great reference, and
Brilliant,
I
man.
think that was the best
That's
experience of getting a
fantastic.
gift.
That's great. And also, I know, I know you really enjoy your mini fridge as well. That's a gift, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that was a gift for my birthday. I don't use it as much just because, you know, it was really more, you know, I would stock it, you know, for when guests were coming over, you know, because we
Sure.
both love a Diet Coke or a Pepsi
Absolutely.
Max, and you know, I would normally stock the fridge, but you know, sort of these times have not called for it just yet.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll be back to that usual routine soon of a mini roll and a Diet Coke can. It's a classic.
100%, 100%. So the next question would be, uh, if you were like the question written down is if you could share a meal with any four individuals, living or dead, who would they be? But you know, just go with as many as you desire if you can't really
So,
think of many off the dome.
so like, if I could have dinner with how many people I'd want, like from history, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you know,
Okay.
living or dead.
Okay. So I would say Joseph Gordon-Levitt would be one.
Yeah,
Chris Evans would be another one. Yourself, because I know you'd be really hilarious at a dinner table. And also, I would say I want to try and get the fourth one, so I'll try and see a fourth one. Probably, um, That's a really good question, man. I think Graham Norton, because Graham Norton is such a great like host of a dinner
Well,
as well. So
that is an amazing choice.
I'd
Like,
go for
because
Graham Norton.
he knows exactly how to balance like completely differing personalities.
Yeah, and plus, I think he'd be a secretly very, and also I know you could like whack up a great dessert. I would say I'll do the easy starter, and then Graham Norton I think would secretly be a very good cook.
Yeah, that is, you know, like a top tier like stacked list.
What about yourself, buddy? I think you'd have a great
I would
one.
probably, I mean, if we're gonna have four, I would probably have you, Donald Gleason from About Time, because
Yeah,
he's
good
probably my favorite actor of all time. Tobey Maguire,
call.
and John Favreau.
That's a
John
good one.
Favreau or Rob Reiner, because John Favreau has obviously directed Chef and Iron Man, which are two of some of my favorite films, but also Rob Reiner has probably the most consistent filmography I've ever seen. You know, every film's like I can't think of one disappointment of a film he's made. And
Yeah,
also he's worked with,
that's
you
such
know,
a good
every
show, man.
A-list talent in Hollywood, so he'd probably have some juicy stories.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's such a great shout. Absolutely, absolutely.
So the next question is kind of weird, but what's the longest you've gone without sleep and why?
Ooh, longest I've gone without sleep. I would say, well, there was one time I used to work as a waiter in a hotel, a few years ago, and I remember that there was a quite a long shift. It's not really that long of a shift now, I'm not lying about it now, but it was like I say it was from like 6 until midnight, so 6 hour shift, that's fine. But then it ended up going on a bit longer than expected, so I didn't get home until 1 a.m. or something. But I was like really, really sick that night. I don't know what it was. And obviously when you're sick, it's hard to go to sleep because, nauseated and whatever. So I think I didn't sleep for maybe it was a good amount of time. So if we incorporate, so like waking up in the morning, say like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, going through to maybe 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock the next day, maybe like 23 hours without sleep, 22 hours. Probably it's not that bad, it's okay, less than a day. But what about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, so these days, I've got like the genes of an old man, so like I need constant sleep, so I can probably only stay awake maybe 20 hours, at an incredible push. Back in the day, I think I would have been up a ridiculous like number of days. I think I probably could have hit 2 3 days,
Wow. Yeah.
because I was sort of like hyper full of energy, and now I'm like the least energetic person you can meet of my age. Like people sort of say, I have a monotone voice, and sort of a characteristically lack of energy. And I do think that's true. I can't exactly argue that I'm an energetic person. So these days, I would very much struggle to get even past a day.
Yeah, oh man, I think I'd be the same. It's sleep is something that they say that you need less of it during your life, but I find myself sleeping more than I ever have done in my life. It's weird.
100%. They say a child needs like 8 to 9 hours sleep. When an adult needs seven.
Hmm.
Sleep experts say seven is probably the sweet spot. For
Sure.
adults. And it's just not coming across for
Yeah,
me.
absolutely, man. I'm the same. Must be
So
lockdown.
yeah, maybe I feel like just doing any activity just feels wasteful
Yeah,
of energy,
no,
because
absolutely.
we know it's not going to amount to much. But the next question is going to be difficult to answer for you. Would you rather trade intelligence for looks, or looks for intelligence? Because you got them both, so you don't
Oh,
need to trade anything really.
stop it, man. For me, I would rather have. I think I'd rather have, and this is going to be such a like cliched answer. I'd rather have intelligence over looks because for me, I think in a even in just in general relationship sense, I think you know, ideally I would want to be with someone who doesn't prioritize looks over personality in the sense, and that's sort of
Yeah,
something I'm trying to sort of break that mold because everyone's the same. There has to be a certain level of attraction in a relationship, but I'm trying to like break myself out of that mold to like look at the personality more and stuff. So for me, I think intelligence in the sense that hold more conversations and stuff, and just in that sense. But what about yourself, buddy? What about yourself?
yeah. I mean, I suppose if this is intelligence encompassing like general knowledge, and like political awareness, things like that, sort of the ability to perceive complex scenarios, yeah, I probably would value intelligence, and I value intelligence in other people over
Sure.
you know looks. So yeah, that I would fully agree with you.
That's a great question. I'm loving these questions so far. Absolutely
Yeah,
smashed it,
it's
bro.
quite a good website, but yeah, I'm not reading out like the properly shit ones. Like on this page even that I like crossed out just what's the tallest building you've been to the top of? I don't really see how that's a get to know you. Like I don't really know what insight that's meant to give. Just looking for where it was.
But no, like my personal favorite one you've got so far was ideal dinner guests. That was a fun one because like it's something that I hadn't actually considered. But your one was great. I'd love to have
Yeah,
that
because
dinner.
like our politics teachers sort of like to grill, the local politicians about, uh,
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
like which political member of a different party could they really stand to spend the most time with.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. So the next question, it's sort of a question that I wanted to ask. I was going to ask, before we decided to do sort of a face reveal video for this, I was going to ask, what, in your opinion, like what actor looks most like you. But to sort of take a turning point from that, because people can see us and make their own judgments. Who would you want to play you in a film about yourself?
I would say if we're sort of balancing sort of aesthetically looking sort of like looks like us, so and also personality wise, I would
Hmm.
probably go
You can
for.
also like I'll just put it out there. You can say like someone at age 18 or like
Okay. All
at
right.
age
Okay.
20.
Okay. Okay. So I would say that's a really interesting one. I would say James McAvoy, just because I sort of similar. I would say very similar, like sort of build and sort of hair to him, and also I think I like his I would like to see his like attempt at my voice like a Northern Irish accent because he is Scottish but does a great English accent, so I'd love to see what he would do with that. And also I just love him in everything he's in, so I'd have to say from a biased perspective, James McAvoy. What about yourself, buddy?
I mean, for me, I think that you look most like James Franco. So I think I think like an 18-year-old, like shaved-faced James Franco, like I think that'd be a perfect match for you. But for me, I don't really see anyone in Hollywood that looks like me. But someone whose performance that I really respected in a film, and I thought they sort of, had balanced, humor with heart, was Nick Robinson in Love, Simon. So I sort of think, a slightly younger him, maybe, like Nick Robinson from like Jurassic World.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, I don't think there's no physical similarity, but
I don't know. I think he's look similar enough. I could tell you what though. I
often
think
in
you're
biopics they go with the more attractive version anyway.
man. I'm telling you, I think you look very similar to him. But I tell you who I think you look very similar to. I think you look exactly like Jake Johnson. Absolutely, and he's a very attractive man. I think 100% I think Jake Johnson would be good for you as well.
I think Jake Johnson, or I don't love his acting, but I sort of see like a very like an incredibly passing resemblance between me and sort of Ty Sheridan, Cyclops from
Yeah,
the X-Men trilogy.
absolutely.
You know, a very passing resemblance, but
What's
that
his
that
line in?
I'd say Nick Robinson's the one I'd go for.
Fair enough. What's his line in X Men Dark Phoenix or something? I think we quoted
If
it
you
in.
touch her, I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. Brilliant. I'd love to hear you say that. Like, that'd be great.
I mean, I'm confident that none of them could do a Northern Irish accent, because I think that you probably need to have a basis of either having a like a Southern Irish accent or having an English accent. Like I think those are the only ones that you could probably
Yeah,
work at and
yeah,
get a Northern Irish accent. I don't think Americans would have a chance.
yeah. Probably not. Well, yeah,
I
well,
think it'd
yeah,
probably be an offensive stereotype of a voice.
probably, yeah.
So the next question is, what's your favorite type of foreign food?
Such a good question again, man. You're smashing it. I would say favorite type of foreign food. I really like a chicken chow mein from Asia.
Lovely.
So some of that, but also I don't know. I would say I like a good curry. So also from Asia as well. But also like Turkish kebabs. I love kebabs. So like Turkish kebab shops, I'm a huge fan of, especially over here. They're quite common. But no, those three probably be my go-to. What about yourself, buddy?
Well, unlike a lot of people our age, who are getting like a Chinese takeaway every week or whatever, I've never had a Chinese takeaway, Indian,
Wow.
any
Okay.
of the Asian
Cool.
cuisines really.
Yeah.
I've sort of just had, our school's take on a curry, which is, wildly inaccurate to how it would actually be made, in India or China. So, I wouldn't say that I've had an authentic meal from that sort of cuisine. So I would have to go with Italian. I enjoy
Salt classic.
pizza.
Yeah.
you know, obviously like a Domino's isn't a traditional pizza, but you know, sort of little wing that we have here, and I
Yeah.
think other
Good
places
shout,
in the
man.
UK, I think that's very traditional. You know, sort of like stone baked, like Italian, like you know, it feels authentic
Absolutely, brother.
to the region.
Absolutely.
So
That's a
I would
great
have to
shout.
say Italian cuisine is probably my favorite.
Yeah, man. What's your go-to carry out or takeaway?
Oh, it's probably a KFC.
Oh,
But like
yes.
I
Good
should have
man.
a better
Yeah.
better decision.
KFC is
Uh,
mine as well.
I know Matthew, you've recently gone through a vegetarian experience. How
Yeah.
was that? I haven't really asked you about it.
You know what? It was definitely it was good at the time. You know, it was. But then when you look back on it, it was a very restrictive diet. And you know, credit to all our friends and people we know who are vegetarian and vegans. You know, it's incredibly hard work to maintain that, and you know, kudos to them. So yeah, but you know, for me, I really enjoyed it. You know, there's some great alternative meat options there, and you know, corn do great vegetarian options. So yeah, that was it was good, man. It was good, but sort of I did miss a KFC to be honest with you, man. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, definitely. So what is sorry, no, do you love or hate roller coasters? Because we've never actually been to a theme park together, but
Oh
we've
yeah.
been separately, obviously.
I actually really love them, but I really hate the anxiety before it. So it's sort of a weird, bittersweet one. But you know, roller coasters, I love them, man. I love them. What about yourself?
Well, I'm sort of a very logical guy, so you know, if you sort of tell me that the odds are in my favor for not dying, but you know, there's still a possibility that sort of obviously gives me instant anxiety. You know, I love a roller coaster when I'm on it, but just the sort of constant fear that I could die
Yeah,
isn't really
yeah.
appealing to me. Because you know, you sort of have like the thrill seekers and the adrenaline junkies, and I do get that, you know, but you know, they're not living on like you know the idea that they could possibly die. They're living on the idea that this is sort of you know it's like the wind rushing and the adrenaline
Mm,
pumping. It's not like
mm.
I could die on this,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So I would say, you know, I like the experience of being on a roller coaster, but the you know the sort of like the thought in the back of my mind that this could lead to death sort of
Yeah,
takes the enjoyment out of it to a certain
absolutely.
degree.
Oh, absolutely.
I've never been upside down on one. I know there are frequent you know loops on
Sure.
most roller
Yeah, yeah.
coasters, but I've never actually tried that.
Yeah, it's like you said, like sort of balancing that like fear of it could go wrong is definitely a factor, isn't it? Like you hear these stories about like people's hair getting caught in a roller coaster and stuff, and it's horrifying, like to think about. So yeah, it's not the biggest. I wouldn't be the biggest fan of them, but I do enjoy I do enjoy them at the time, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And Matthew, what I want to know is how old were you when you learned Santa wasn't real, and how did you find out?
Great question, Callum. So I would say I was about I would say about 10, maybe 9, between 9, 10, 11. I would say. And sort of at Christmas, my mum, dad, and I, we would like, obviously, you know, as you do, leave, you know, carrots for Rudolph and the reindeers. You'd leave, you know, a mince pie for Santa and stuff, you know, whatever. And we'd also used to write little letters to Santa, and then Santa would write back to us. But I
Right?
sort of noticed that Santa's handwriting looked remarkably similar to my mother's handwriting, and you'll know the story quite well. So I sort of put two and two together and realized, hold on a second, either Santa is my mother or he's not real. So I sort of took the leap and thought it's probably not real. So that is how I found out. So not as heartbreaking as some people's betrayal of trust that Santa isn't real, but no man, that's how I found out. What about yourself, buddy?
I mean, have you heard my story
I don't think
before?
so. I don't think so before.
So I was either 6 or 8. You know, it was one of the round numbers early on. You know, so it was
Pretty
either like
early on, yeah.
2000. It was either 2008 or 2010. No, yes, 2008 or 2010. I think it was maybe 2010. Because that would have been when I was into Ben 10. Because I was 10 years old and I was like,
Sure.
oh, I'm Ben 10 because
Ben
my middle
10.
name's Ben and I have an
Forearms.
omnitrix and
Yeah.
I'm fucking sick. You know, like you know, I was of that mentality.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, so you know, uh, Santa was never really a big deal in our house. You know, we didn't do any of the family traditions or
Mm.
anything. It was kind of just you know a casual concept of oh, this is the person that leaves the presents. We
Yeah.
get the presents. We have fun with the presents. You know, it wasn't a big thing in our house. So when I found out, it wasn't exactly like earth shattering. You know, it didn't change my perception on life. I wasn't like oh, but
Yeah.
if he's real, like what is? You know, like it didn't make
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
question my reality like I was in the Matrix or something.
Yeah.
But you know, I was just you know talking to my siblings about Christmas, and they took it upon themselves to just say, yeah, Callum, you know, Santa isn't real,
Brutal.
and this is what you're getting for Christmas. So they ruined the idea of Santa, and they told me what I was getting for Christmas. So the surprise was gone. So was the magic. But I got a Ben 10 portable DVD player, which then promptly broke 2 weeks
Oh,
after.
that's
So that
devastating.
was sort of that wasn't a banner year for Christmas in my household.
Man, that would bring a tear to anyone's eye. Like, Santa's the sort of thing where you sort of think, if we had kids, not let's say if we had kids, if not together, if I had kids, would I like encourage the belief in Santa? But then it's a bittersweet thing. Like the magic of Christmas is, it's exemplified by Santa. It's a staple of Christmas. But in many ways, the realization that he's not real, it can be quite heartbreaking for some kids. Like that instance for you, like that would be brutal. But yeah, it's not
Yeah.
something that I necessarily would think I would pass on to my kids, but it just would depend, to be honest. What about yourself? Buddy, where do you stand with it?
Yeah, there is a balance in deciding to tell your kids, because sort of if you don't tell them about Santa, and that magic's gone, then it just becomes about materialism.
Yeah,
Because then they're
yeah, it's a
like,
good point.
oh well, we don't believe in Santa, but this is how much we want you to spend on us to prove that you love us. Then there's also
Yeah.
the balance if you tell them that Santa's real, and then they ask for £1,000 worth of shit, and they don't get that, then they start to cry and complain and say, oh, Santa's a fucking wanker, like he like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
clearly and then they start comparing themselves to other people and saying, oh, Santa brought this person this much, he didn't bring me that much, was I a bad person? And it's sort of a probably
Mm,
a bad
it's a good
cycle of
point,
thought,
man.
bad
It's a good
train of
point.
thought to sort of put upon kids.
Yeah.
But because I don't like that. I don't like the idea of lying to my children. But I'd probably just, it'd probably be a lie of omission for me. I'm never going to tell them Santa's real, but I'll probably just, let them believe it until someone tells them it's not true.
Sure. Yeah. It's a good point, man. It's a fantastic point.
So a big question that sort of, leads into whether we're, more optimistic than pessimistic. Is your glass half full or half empty?
That's a great question, Callum. Again, man. I would say I like to think half full, but then I think everyone has times where you sort of feel like, oh, nothing's gonna work out, and you sort of lose your hope in that sort of thing. But I like to think half full. But it's not all the time that it's half full. To be honest, everyone goes through these experiences where they sort of doubt themselves and stuff. But for the most part, half full. What about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, I sort of think that metaphor doesn't really work hugely, because it sort of just implies that the two states of being are optimism and pessimism.
Yeah,
Whereas,
good point, man.
I find myself to be a realist in most scenarios. I think of you know, I think of the cup being in existence and there's water in it.
Sure,
I don't need
absolutely,
to.
man.
I
Absolutely,
don't think of it as half empty or half full. I think
great point.
people mistakenly think that I'm pessimistic, but I think it's just because I'm stood next to you, and you're so full of light and optimism and positivity, and then I feel like I'm a bit of a downer sometimes. But I think I'm fairly in the middle for the most
Absolutely.
part.
I think you're a perfect blend of optimism and realism, to be honest with you. But and like you said, I think a lot of people mistake realism for pessimism. They're very two different things. I think realism is a fantastic blend of the two, where you could acknowledge that not everything works out, but you can also acknowledge that there is hope for the future. So man, I think you blend the two superbly.
I mean, I would say that I'm certainly pessimistic when it comes to myself. I say, oh, there's no chance that I'll get this. Oh, I didn't do well enough in that interview to
Too
get on this
pessimistic, I'd say.
program.
Yeah.
I do that for myself, but I would say, I do my best to sort of like optimistically build up everyone else, and say, you know you're the best person for that job. Of course, you'll get it. I try to do that to the best of my ability.
Yeah, man. Like I think you're very like you're way too critical of yourself, man. Like you don't acknowledge your amazing accomplishments and your attributes. I think you should really believe in yourself more, because you're definitely capable of achieving so much, buddy.
Well, thank you, Matthew.
Yeah.
And the next question for you is: do you collect anything? And I know that you've been sort of amassing a DVD collection as of late.
Yeah, so any viewers of the podcast will know Callum has had a DVD collection for as long as I've known him. Excuse me. And I've sort of taken his footsteps and followed his footsteps rather, and amassed my own so far. But yeah, back in the day, I think everyone in primary school, sort of in my primary school, sort of collected trading cards. Be it Pokemon, Match Attacks, and stuff. So I was big into those two back in the day, and the Go Go's Crazy Bones as well. 2000s kids will know them. But yeah, I suppose, and comic books as well. Not so much now, but also like Funko Pops as well. So anything comic related back back then. But yeah, man, just a number of things as any sort of 18-year-old person really has. Everyone's different, of course. But what about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've mentioned, my wide disdain for most sports. So, I was never into, collecting the trading cards or anything like that.
Sure.
But, I sort of had a range of embarrassing things that I would collect, be it, like Mosh, were you into Moshi Monsters at all?
Yeah, Moshi
That
Monsters,
website,
yeah.
it was sort of like Budget Club Penguin. Well, I mean, it was better graphically designed, but it was, sort of just a cheap rip off of Club Penguin. And there would be like physical figures
Sure.
you could
Yeah,
collect
I remember
trading
that.
cards.
Yeah.
I had all of that because I was never into sort of Pokemon, but this was sort of an equivalent of that, sort of the trading cards. And then of course, got the DVDs in the background,
Looks great,
and I
man.
have a list of about 400 others I want to buy. But then
Yeah.
sort of as people keep regarding it as more and more of an obsolete technology, that sort of makes me sort of pull back from the idea of getting any more.
Yeah, it's a great thing. I think DVDs are fantastic. I hope they become the vinyl records of in 10 years, 15 years time. So, and also they look, we've mentioned this, I think, in the last episode, they actually generally look cool.
Yeah, I mean, currently I have my mic set up on like 6 DVDs, so where would I
Awesome.
be without them?
Absolutely. We are the Movie Mates podcast after all.
100%. So, Matthew, uh, I wanted to know, is there anything you wished would come back into fashion? Because I know you're a fashionable man. You're
Thank
wearing
you,
you're wearing
sir.
some high fashion today.
Thank you, sir.
I know you're a fan of headbands.
Yeah, I like
Sort of
headbands.
hair bands or whatever you choose to call them. And
Yeah,
bandanas. So, what,
bananas,
what
yeah.
what would you say that's gone out of fashion? Would you like to come back?
That's a great question again, buddy. I remember back in sort of the P6, P7 days, there was a lot of negative stereotypes behind sort of chinos and chino jeans and shorts. So I would like to see chinos come back into fashion because I actually quite like, I always wear just like black jeans and stuff. Black, so I'd rather just hope chinos come back into fashion soon. I don't know if they are, maybe they are back into fashion. I don't know. Maybe I'm just blissfully unaware, but probably chinos for me, buddy. What about yourself?
Yeah, there's not a lot for me because I think fashion is probably one thing where I sort of relent and just accept that I decide to just dress how other people do, to avoid mockery. But I sort of used to be a bit more out there with my fashion, wearing sort of more printed tops with superheroes and stuff. But sort of as I'm approaching adulthood, I like to wear a nice suit, wear a nice jacket.
Sure, sure.
I'm sort of adhering to stereotypes of like male fashion these days. But I think sometimes people like a bit of zaniness. So like when I'm wearing a t-shirt like my Tobey Maguire one, outside, I'm just appreciative of people who appreciate that I enjoy wearing it.
Absolutely, and there's always a great feeling of if you're wearing a sort of an inside joke T-shirt or something, and someone recognizes that and acknowledges a joke. Like I remember one time, I had went to see Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I was wearing like my Iron Man sort of hoodie where it said the FE man, so like the chemical symbol of iron and stuff, and someone just walked past me and was just like, oh, I get it. Okay. So that was sort of a nice. It's the first time I've ever had that. It's the only time I've ever had someone like acknowledge the inside joke. So it's a great feeling. It's a great. What about yourself? I never had any experiences with that.
No, not really. I've I've walked past someone at Comic Con wearing sort of like a t-shirt from Arrow, but it was basically just it was very simple design, and they just had a nice t-shirt. That's sort of the only time that I've had someone sort of make an outright comment about something that I also enjoyed wearing.
Hmm.
These days people sort of sometimes compliment what I'm wearing. Of course you do, and anytime I'm wearing sort of a print t-shirt, but if I'm wearing a nice jacket, people are always nice and compliment, and
That's
it makes me
awesome,
feel
man. Yeah.
good.
Absolutely, but yeah, absolutely.
So Matthew, we've talked about optimism versus pessimism,
Sure.
and now I'm just wondering, would you consider yourself more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I would say like on the podcast, by nature of like we're putting ourselves out there on the internet, people would probably assume like we're quite extroverted people. I would say we both agree. Like there is times where we can be extroverted in real life, but I would say we're probably both introverts in many ways. What do you think, man? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've always considered myself an introvert. I always appreciated staying at home rather than going out. But people sort of say, people sort of associate being an introvert with wanting to be alone. But it's more you want to be isolated and be in sort of a familiar area. But you want to be in a familiar area with people you love. So I would
Yeah,
rather be
absolutely.
inside.
It's a great
with
point, Callum.
friends than be out in the open air, with
Yeah,
nobody. I'd rather just stay inside and watch a movie with a group of mates than like go out on
absolutely,
a walk by myself.
absolutely, Callum.
So I would rather stay inside than like enter the open world. But honestly, one thing that I really didn't expect for myself was to actually enjoy going to clubs, because I assumed that that would be the bane of my existence. People
Yeah,
sort of asking me to come out and expecting me to do that, and me having to really force myself. And sort of my first club experience was like it was a terrible time. It was on my birthday. I really didn't enjoy it. Not the birthday celebration that we had, but the day before, which was my actual birthday. We went out. Some of us went out. I believe you were at McDonald's. Working your shift, and it was just awful. It was
yeah.
straight up awful.
I'm glad that
The
it's grown
music
on
was
you though.
terrible. Hmm?
I'm glad it's grown on you though.
Yeah, it was a bad experience, and I thought that sort of that characterized all club experiences I would have. And then I went to some of the less reputable joints,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
had a great time.
Awesome,
Just I
buddy.
suppose because of the company I had and the music they were playing. It was a great atmosphere, and it sort of took me by surprise that was something that I would ever enjoy.
Absolutely, Calum. I think company and music's definitely a big factor, isn't it, man? About who you share the time with, but also the background.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of background music, that kind of vibe,
Sure.
which of the five senses would you say is the strongest?
For me personally,
Yeah, yeah.
I would. Oh, that's such a good one. I would say, um, like, what do I value most, or like what sort of, what do you mean?
Like, which would you say? Oh, my sense of whatever is the strongest.
I would say sense of taste. I'm a very picky eater, I would say. So sense of taste. I would say I do like a lot of food. We've mentioned just sort of vegetarian diet. We've mentioned foreign foods that we both enjoy. So I'd say sense of taste. I don't have a great sense of hearing and sight and stuff. So what about yourself, buddy?
Well, like I'm wearing glasses right now. Obviously, my sense of sight is shit. My sense of hearing, I have tinnitus, so that's like a constant ringing in the ears. So that's also fucked. My hearing is like shocking. And the others, the remaining three, I would say are fair balance. But I am properly like a bloodhound when it comes to smell. Like I would say I have one of the strongest senses of smell that I've ever encountered. And I mean, obviously, it's difficult to assess other people's sense of
I know
smell.
what you mean, though. I know what you
Other
mean,
than just
buddy.
saying,
Yeah,
can you smell that? And they say no, but you can smell it really intensely.
yeah.
So that would be by far for me.
I would say your sense of humor is also very good. But no, yeah, that's a good shot. That's a great question, man. Actually, it's not something I've ever considered before.
So Matthew, this does not apply to me, so this will just be to you. Have you ever had a surprise party, and was it an actual surprise?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I have no, actually, I've never had a surprise party before. Actually, I don't think so. I'm trying to think. Have I before? Like, there's definitely been instances where people have done surprising things for me before. For sure, that locket that you give me was a great birthday surprise, but I don't think so. I hope I'm not being ignorant to that. Like, I probably will think after the podcast. Oh, I have so many instances, but no, nothing that comes to my head straight away. Anything from you?
Yeah, as you saad, I've had surprises when it comes to gifts, but I've never been a huge party guy.
Mm,
I don't really love being the center of attention
yeah.
often.
Mm,
I mean, sometimes on your birthday, it's obviously nice for people to say happy birthday.
sure.
That's a nice feeling. When people care. But parties. I've been out for things. We obviously went to a bar this year, and years previously, we've been to like laser tag, and similar activities like that. So I like to go out and have fun, but party wise, I don't like the idea of just a
Yeah,
group
I'm the same, man.
gathering where I'm the center of attention. Like,
I'm
are you
completely
the
the
same?
same, buddy. Yeah, completely the same. I just love a good night in with you or other friends or a lady. Not my just watching a movie, just having snacks, just enjoying each other's company. That's just my ideal night with anyone.
Yeah, great. And Matthew, are you related or even distantly related to anyone famous?
I know you are, and yours is really, really interesting. So, trying to think of my.
Wait, do you know the one? I mean, don't say it because
I don't.
I've been told not to. I've been told not to say. But
Okay.
there are two people that I'm distantly related to.
Yeah.
That I'll tell you off pod, but I'll not say here.
I know what one of them is, a politician of some kind across the water.
Both are a politician of
Oh,
a
really?
kind.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. So I would say for me, related to anyone famous, not that I know of, buddy. Not that I know of. Anything from you?
I mean, I know that when there was one time we were at our friend Jenny's for New Year's Eve and we were playing Two Truths One Lie, and I'd sort of shared a lot of lies that well, a couple of truths and a couple of lies. I went for sort of a consistent theme where I was talking about my siblings, and you sort of just pulled like three absolute like weird ones like out of your
They
ass,
were
and
bad.
like two were obviously true, and then one was like I'm related to the governess from The Chase. Uh,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's too weird to not be true. And then you bamboozled us, you fooled us.
Oh man, I remember that. I'd forgotten about that completely. Yeah. No. I'm not really anyone famous, sadly, buddy. At the minute.
So Matthew, you obviously you come from a very close family.
Sure.
You're at your aunt and uncle's right now.
Shout out Chris
So
and
I
Claire.
wondered if your family has a motto, spoken or unspoken.
Oh, that's such a good question again. I don't know. Like we have a lot of inside jokes.
Live, laugh, love. I know
We
that's around your house a lot.
have a lot of inside jokes. Like yeah, like I remember when I was vegetarian, like a lot of my family members were not very pleased I was vegetarian because they were worried about I wasn't eating enough. So there was a lot of people would like to poke fun at the line where my granddad would say, what good are potato waffles? What good's waffles? Well, because that's all I used to eat basically when I was vegetarian. So yeah, that's a bit of an inside joke there. But no family mottos that come to mind. Anything from your family, buddy?
I mean, on an unspoken level, we're obviously of the ethos, be as kind to each other as you can be.
Yeah,
It's fairly standard.
sure.
We try to promote civility amongst all members of the family. Obviously, all families have their ups and downs. Their fights and their good moments. So we just want to appreciate in the good moments that we have things in common. Just be as kind to each other as possible is
That's
sort
a
of
great one,
my
man.
my family's
That's a
ethos.
fantastic one. No, I love your family. Like they definitely they definitely practice what they preach in that sense. They're so kind.
So Matthew, what song would you say best sums you up? Either lyrically or title.
Oh, such a good one again, man. You're smashing it. What song? You know what? Can I bring up my music and just have a wee look?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just have a wee look here. Like a lot of my music is, it's going to be quite a weird. But I listen to most of my music. I don't think you know this, but a lot of the music I listen to is musical scores, so it's non-lyrical. So
Hmm.
it gets me in a very good frame of mind. So I love listening to the score from the Raimi films. 500 Days of Summer has a great score, and there's a lot of great films with great scores, like American Beauty, fantastic score. Excuse me, and obviously the film Her. So a lot of those. I just listen to mostly movie scores, but in terms of actually lyrical songs, best describe me. It's a good question, man. Again, no, we've mentioned before, like a lot of us, we have very similar sense of music. You've definitely influenced mine completely, man, and to that I thank you for. The Beatles and stuff like that. But let's have a wee
Can I
look.
can I throw out one that I think
Go for
summarizes
it.
you a little
Go
bit?
for it, man. Go for it.
I'm going to put out Mr. Blue Sky by ELO
Ah,
just because I think you're a ray of positivity.
oh, thank you, man. That means a lot. That's a good one, man. One of my faves, actually. Actually, yeah. I'm trying to think, man. That's such a good question. Uh, hmm. I don't know. I don't know, man. It's I quite like the song. I don't know. So I might have to. Edit this little thing here.
Oh, you can edit obviously. Yeah, just looking for a song. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I
Let me
mean,
just have a
because I'm trying to think of one. Like I didn't prepare answers for these, but I'm just trying to think off the dome what I would go for.
wee. Uh, there's a lot of songs here. Like if I wouldn't obviously say them because I actually don't feel that way about them. There's a lot of songs here, like really hardcore rap songs here, where the rappers are really like arrogant. So there's one here. It was like destined for greatness. Like I wouldn't want to say that
Oh yeah,
one.
that isn't that Toby
Yeah, it's
Jizzles?
actually a great. He's not arrogant. Like that's a bad example I used, but like
Yeah,
destined for like undefeated. That's one from
like
KSI.
how did I play for you? Oh well, you've obviously seen Popstar Never Stop Never Stopping, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
do you remember the scene of Humble, which is like a piss take on like
yeah.
Eminem and obviously like ones that are
Yeah.
arrogant but are trying to like downplay it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just have a wee look at even musical scores, the titles of musical scores that ring true. Um, hmm. I quite like. Okay, I've got one. I've got one. Um,
Okay.
it's the song by the Smiths. There is a light that never goes out, because I like to think, as we said, glass half full, and I always like to be optimistic about things. So I love the Smiths. I love that song. So there is a light that never goes out is from me.
Yeah, I have no idea what I'm gonna go for. I'm gonna say Octopus's Garden by the Beatles.
Oh,
Uh,
classic.
because
Love it. Love it.
I think that's all about the positivity of friendship, and how life isn't the same without friends.
That's
So
a yeah.
that's sort of how I
It's
feel.
such a great shout, but I love that, Callum, and that's such a great shout. Actually, I love that. I love that. The Beatles, they're so good at making songs that are made decades ago but are so relatable, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously I'm a big fan of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, but
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to go for too depressing a choice because I think that's all that song's really about. But Matthew, if we get a little insight into little Matthew, young boy Matthew,
Sure.
who was your first crush? Obviously, don't name and shame, but could you give us a little insight into
First crush. Movie crush or just in real life?
Matthew Jr. Uh, let's go celebrity and real life if you choose to
Okay.
divulge.
I would say celebrity. We've talked about this in the past. It was I think her name was Stephanie from Lazy Town. So
Yep.
that was definitely her. And I would say in real life, I'm trying to think if I've had any. Back in my primary school days, I was known for being a
Bit of a
bit of a
fuck boy.
bit of a fuckboy. Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a fuckboy. But yeah, like in primary school, like we used to have a thing where it was like, who's your top five, sort of in the class, which that sounds really bad. Like it sounds really bad. It was. So yeah, probably I had a lot of sort of like if you can call them girlfriends back then. You'd say, would you go out with me? Like we never go on dates really. We never hold hands or anything like that. So it was just like but it was sort of like this sweet, innocent, sort of playfulness of primary school life. Can you hear the rain in the background of this?
I can't know because like I just
That's
hear like
okay.
static.
No worries. It's absolutely lashing back here, man.
Yeah, I think I can hear thunder outside my house.
But no, that would be my answer to that. Buddy, what about yourself?
Yeah, so we've talked about how animators obviously they fuse a lot of like they try to make children's cartoon characters attractive for whatever reason. I
Yeah,
suppose just so
sure.
it's appealing to the young mind. But of course my answer is Kim Possible.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
who else would it be? Uh, you know, but that animators
Yeah,
have some sort of weird idea where they're trying to make a character for children, but they're like,
sure.
how can we make them as appealing as possible? Oh, we'll make them like good looking.
Yeah,
So
sure.
obviously animated wise there's Kim Possible.
Yeah.
And I told you in my school, there was obviously a girl that I liked, and she realized I liked her without me needing to say. Told me that she wouldn't go out with me, because it was like uncool, unfunny, that kind of vibe. And then so that's why it's been my personal my personal vendetta against
Yeah.
her to to,
Yeah.
to get as funny as possible. To amass as many friends circulating me that say I can
Now
make them
you've
laugh.
outdone yourself. You're the funniest guy I know. So that girl was definitely misinformed then. So she was.
Yeah, so that was the first of many little Callum heartbreaks.
We've all been there, man. We've all been there, haven't we?
Definitely. I mean, I'm sure you were the heartbreaker in a couple of those scenarios if you had
More than I'd
quite a few
like.
on the
More
go.
than I'd like. Yeah. Yeah.
So Matthew, I just wanted to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how funny do you think you are?
Oh no.
Yeah, I want to see some arrogance.
Can I be honest with you, man? I don't honestly think I'm a very funny person. I'm genuinely being honest there. Like, I don't know. I'm definitely like when I compare myself to you, I'm not as definitely not as quick witted as you, not as sarcastic as you. And I think a lot of my humor comes from like inside jokes I have with friends and especially with yourself. So I would say like maybe a 2 or a 3. So not definitely not that funny. And what about yourself? But I would honestly rate you a 10, 100%, 100%.
Well, I would say that, humor is obviously the most subjective thing in the world. Obviously, it shouldn't be subjective, when things are objectively offensive, but, neither of us, go for that route of
Yeah.
comedy. Neither of us are, excusing racism or homophobia by saying, oh, it was only a joke, which I
Sure.
know people do. But, obviously humor is incredibly subjective. A lot of people do not, get my brand of humor because I'm never really trying to be funny. I'm just throwing
It's
out,
just part of your
you
personality,
know,
yeah.
oh yeah, of course. But I'm just responding to the scenario, being a bit observational. But neither of us like tell jokes, do we? Because we,
No, no.
obviously a lot of teenagers our age are into memes, and they're on Reddit and stuff, and they sort of like regurgitate jokes that they've seen there. They recite memes, and that's not my brand of humor.
Yeah, me
It's
neither,
it's
man.
it's like it's not humor that I like or humor that I use.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be a specific type of person to appreciate what I'm going for,
Yeah.
and a
I get
lot of
no,
people
I
don't.
respect that. Yeah. I
Because I
respect
would
that,
say a
man.
lot of people like humor. I think can like turn you completely off from a person. So I
That's a
think
great
if
point.
people don't know what I'm going for, they assume I'm a dickhead, and I think that's happened a fair bit. But me myself, I don't think that I'm particularly funny. People like some people do, not me. So I'm going for like a 4 or 5.
Oh man, that's low for you. Honestly, I think you're the funniest guy I've ever met. It's just the sarcastic, dry sense of humor you've got, and as you said, man, it's not for everyone's taste, but I think it's great, man. Honestly, you're so quick witted in that sense. You're always there to put a punchline in. So kudos,
I
man.
also think like with the humor that me and you go for, I don't think it comes across as well here, just because we're a bit more observational, and we're quite analytical when we talk about films. So I'm not sure that our humor
Yeah,
always comes across, but
sure.
I think some of our friends would appreciate more than it comes across here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hopefully so, man. Hopefully so.
So Matthew, if you could join any past or current music group, which would you want to join?
See, I would go for the Beatles, but I wouldn't want to like ruin their legacy by me being there. So I wouldn't go for them. I would go. Uh, see, um, like I'm not a big singer, not a big. I don't sing. I don't play any instruments or anything. So just to be there as part of a group, I would say probably the Clash, just because they're my favorite. So probably the Clash. What about yourself, Callum?
Yeah, you brought up a fantastic point of like I wouldn't want to ruin anyone's music. I wouldn't want to ruin their legacy. And obviously the Beatles was obviously like a four-piece band, so there isn't much room, to add an extra person without it probably being a ruiner. Because if you added like an extra vocalist, you're gonna like I'm gonna vocally ruin the songs. If you like have me playing a guitar when I don't know how to play the guitar, that's gonna be a nightmare. So like I'd probably add myself to the Rolling Stones because that's sort of the balance of my favorite music, whilst also there being enough band members that I can sort of like sink into the background. I
Mm,
think the Rolling
that's a
Stones are
great
a
point,
five
man.
piece. So like I'd just be in the background like playing the tambourine. So like
Absolutely.
I'm in it,
Yeah.
but like I don't think I'm ruining it.
Yeah, oh, that's a good shout, man. That's a good shout. Rolling Stones is a band I definitely want to get more into, man. To be honest with you.
So Matthew, if you had to describe yourself as an animal, which one would it be?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I would say as an animal, um, I would say, hmm, that's such a great question. Can I go with two animals?
Sure.
I would say a tortoise because once you get to know me, I definitely have a shell out there, and like once you get to know me, I like to come out of my shell. The people I feel comfortable with. So in that sense, in a metaphorical sense, a tortoise, and I suppose in another sense, I would say like I would say a duck-billed platypus because and they're I just like them, but also like sort of a bit weird, a bit I don't know, is misunderstood the right word? I don't know, but sort of not a lot is known about them. but likewise, sort of like I don't know, just duck-billed platypus and a tortoise. What about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, I'm not going to go for much meaning behind mine. I'm gonna say a monkey. Because I'm a bit spindly,
Bit cheeky,
and I enjoy
bit cheeky.
banana.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go sweet and simple.
I love that. Yeah, I love that, man. I love that.
So Matthew, what is one thing that you've tried? Let's say an activity that you would never try again, unless genuinely forced to.
Okay. I would say probably being in a choir.
I didn't know that you were in a choir because
Yeah.
I'm sure you're aware that I was in my local
Yeah.
church choir.
Yeah.
With our friend Christopher.
Yeah.
So tell me about your choir boy days.
Yeah, so back in the P7 days, so like the end of our primary school era, we were in like a choir, and then we had to perform in the Lyric Theatre in Lisburn, and we one of the songs was Miley Cyrus. I think it was Decline. It was Decline by Miley Cyrus, and it was a song that the teachers like they didn't instruct us. It was just a special one for the day, so they assumed everyone knew it. But I was in the front row, just absolutely no idea what to sing along to. So that was one of the worst experiences of my life. But like,
I'm sorry. So you didn't rehearse it, and they just expected you to know the lyrics
yep.
in front of the Lyric Theatre. And like, this was a school run choir?
This was a school run choir. Yeah, it's like there were other songs that we had rehearsed. Like there was a Harry Potter song that we had rehearsed, and maybe I just missed the Miley Cyrus rehearsals. I don't think I did, but I just had no idea what was going on. So
But
definitely
like to be
the
at the
choir
Lyric,
days.
presumably you had quite a good reputation. Like, was it a good quality choir
I
until
think
they
it was
sort
like
of
a
like just
primary
dropped you into the
school.
deep end?
I think it was a primary school event in the local area where like every local primary school who had a choir would, go to the Lisburn Lyric Theatre. But it was a weird one, man. It's not something I'd want to try again at all. What about yourself, buddy?
Well, Matthew, very recently, last summer, as you mentioned, we had our experience on NCS,
Yes, yes.
and
Oh,
many people
yes.
across the globe,
I know where you're going with
have
it.
experienced NCS,
Yeah,
and there's a variety of activities that
sure.
sort of like to challenge yourself, to build your confidence, to get out of your shell, and I think a lot of those worked. We did a lot of I'm not a
Yeah,
big heights fan, but I'm not afraid of heights, and we did a lot related to that. Uh, you know, a leap of faith and a gladiator type scenario
sure,
where you have
sure.
to climb these varying degrees of logs. But one thing that I had never done and never want to do again are water sports, namely paddleboarding,
Paddleboarding.
because it was a nightmare. Like it's one of
uh,
the most panicked I've ever been in my life,
that is the funniest
because
moment of my life.
that's so mean, Matthew. Like, it was horrible. We were doing this paddleboarding. I was very low in confidence on it. I was struggling. I didn't make much movement in the beginning, and then I was sort of picking it up. I was increasing a little bit in skill, a little bit in confidence. I was at the same level of
Sure.
distance as everyone else. We were all in the same area, but everyone else was doing a little bit better. People had fallen off once or so. I'd fallen off 3 or 4 times. So I wasn't doing well. But I thought I'd eventually picked it up. I thought it was at everybody's level. Then the instructor calls the end of day. We're heading back to the sand, because we were in like what would you call it? Was a lake? Was it a lake or a
I would
river?
say a
So
lake. I
obviously
would say a lake. Yeah.
there's a lake. Well, I mean, that's worse, Matthew. That's smaller than a river, so like that makes me seem worse. But
We'll
there was
go
no
river.
current, obviously. But I felt like I felt like I'd been like swept out by a current,
It
because
was a big river. It
everyone
was a big lake. So it was, to be
it
fair.
was it was it was huge. But like everyone had got back, and I was like hundreds of meters out, from the
Yeah.
shore. I mean, I say the shore, like, isn't that like by the sea? I don't know. It felt like
It did
it
felt
felt
like a
like I was
sea at the
going
time. To
against
be fair, it
against the
was big.
current.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so me and Matthew, I think we're at the same level, and then we're sort of progressing for a few minutes at the same level, and then I look away, I look back, and he's like dozens of meters ahead of me, and I'm like panicking. I'm trying to use the paddle, and then I'm trying to like get on my stomach and swim. Nothing's working.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's genuinely the most panicked I've ever been. And then I finally make it back to the land, and we see our friend from NCS, who is one of our leaders at the point, and I look her dead in the eyes and just say, I never thought I'd see land again, because I genuinely was so confident I was gonna die.
Oh man, that is a classic story in itself. Like that was, you know, people probably listen to this like, oh, it's just a lake, but it was a big lake, to be fair. And you know, the instructor just didn't let us know that we were going. They were all just we were just all at the bus. So we just saw you just in the middle of the lake, just swimming for dear
Yeah,
life.
I hear that people were apparently like taking the piss and like, you know, pissing themselves laughing whilst I was like in distress.
Yeah, yeah, like it was in many ways that summer. It was a character building summer in many ways, wasn't it?
Yeah. But they had sort of gone like, okay, time to go, like let's pack it up. And then like apparently some people were on the bus and they're like, oh, is Callum kicking about anywhere? And then they just look out
Where's
and
Callum?
I'm crying. I mean, not literally, obviously, but you know,
Man,
it
you were
was
through
a
the wars
traumatic
that summer.
experience.
You got sunburnt really badly as well that day or a
I
day
mean, you
after.
know, yeah, we talked about this being one of the best experiences of our lives. So, like, there was that incident, and then also, yeah, because
Yeah.
you know, I'm usually quite conservative with my sun cream because I don't want to be like, you know, like a pasty white. So, you know, like have you seen the Mark Zuckerberg memes of him like surfing, like with his face like covered in like just you know like a mask of white sun cream?
I haven't seen it.
No, like I didn't want to be to that degree, so you know, I was quite
Sure.
conservative with the sun cream.
Yeah.
Then I'd like rested my arms on like this plastic bench, and
Sure.
then I was like, it must have just melted my arms because they were the reddest I've ever seen. Like it
Oh man,
was
it looked
horrific.
painful, man. It really did.
It was bad. So Matthew, the last of the official questions before I move on to the Facebook suggestions
Sure.
is who knows you the best?
Definitely you.
Oh
Definitely.
really?
Yeah. 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 Like 100%. 100%. You know me the best out of everyone.
Because I would say, you know, we're approaching probably, you know, close to a 4 year anniversary of friendship. So you really think you've divulged more to me than anyone else?
Yeah. 100%, buddy. 100%. Like anything that's happened to me, you know about pretty much. So yeah, have
Yeah,
to be you, buddy. What about yourself? What about yourself?
yeah. You know, obviously we've shared 4 years together, four beautiful years. You know, so I would say experiences wise, you know, you know a lot about me, but obviously, you know, my dad's been there like
Sure.
the
Yeah. No, I
full
get that. Yeah.
18. So
100%. Yeah.
I would say life experience. My dad probably knows me the best, but you know how my like brain works and you know how I think and you know try to approach things. I would say you definitely know me the best.
Awesome, buddy. Like, yeah, it's such a great question as well, buddy, because you know it's weird because we haven't known each other for that long. And it's like 4 years is a long time, but it's when you know we see like you've known people that we mutually know like a lot longer, and likewise with me. So it's just funny how like personalities just blend really well.
Yes. So Matthew, I've finished with the official questioning
They were
from
great,
the
yeah.
internet. So now we're going to move on to the Facebook group,
Basic ones, yeah.
where I had asked if anybody had any you know questions for a Q&A type scenario because a lot of them obviously have their own podcasts and have done a similar thing to this. And you
Sure.
know I got a few responses, and you don't have to answer this one, but I just
Go for
enjoyed
it.
it. So this is from Luke on the Facebook group. Do you piss through the fly or over the waistband? Specific scenario: you're in your best jeans, wearing underwear, and are pissing into a urinal.
Never through the zipper, always over the waistband.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't think you were going to go for the answer, but 100%.
Yeah, like I've never peed through the zipper or the little hole in the boxer shorts. Never.
So sometimes if I'm in a pinch and wearing a belt, I'll go for that
Okay,
technique.
fair.
But otherwise, yeah,
It just feels
waistband all the way.
unnatural. It feels unnatural to me.
Yeah, it does feel unnatural.
The big
So
movie mates talk about. I'm just gonna put this down in my notes for the description. Pissing through the zipper. Okay, awesome. Go ahead.
okay, so the next line of questioning is from Andrew, who suggests that we sort of do, you know, sort of a truncation of the inside the actor studio
Oh yeah, yeah, sure.
questioning. So Matthew, there's about 10 or so, and you know, I haven't seen inside the actor studio, but you know, obviously there's a lot of introspective, you know, philosophical questions. So you know, there's going to be a bit of that, but otherwise, you know, it's going to be you know same as you know ones that we've covered before, really.
Sure.
So, what is your favorite word?
That's such a great one. Uh,
Obviously us being you know intellectual English lit A level students, you know we should know.
my favorite word is autumn, just because obviously I just love the season. In fact, you know, we talked about this in one Harry Met Sally review, and the autumnal imagery in that film, spectacular. And it's my favorite season. It's my favorite time of year. And it's when usually great movies come out. It's when you and I spend the most time together, I would say. Other than, yeah, I would say we spend the most time together in autumn. And yeah, it's the start. It's always the start of new experiences, be it a new year of high school, university, or anything, and also the ending of 500 Days of Summer. Love that. So I would say my favorite word is autumn. What about yourself?
Lovely. My favorite word is zeitgeist, meaning
Good shout.
meaning feel of the times.
Good
You know,
shout.
because we're both, I know you didn't study history past a certain level, because I know you didn't particularly enjoy the sort of
Yeah.
comprehensive element of it, but I
Sure.
think we're both appreciative of history,
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
film history, and we love to look back and how things captured certain things. And going back to sort of films of the 60s, films of the 70s, I sort of love to think of how that captures that time, as sort of a
Absolutely, man.
time capsule dedicated to that period of history.
Fantastic, fantastic, man. Zeitgeist is an awesome one. It really is. Like, it sounds cool. It's got a great meaning behind it. Yeah, so that's a fantastic shout, buddy.
So, Matthew, what is your least favorite word?
Least favorite word. That's an interesting one. What words do I really not like? I don't know, because
Obviously, we don't need to go into the fact that, obviously, words that are used as names for people, as a slur, are obviously horrific.
yeah,
Let's put that aside and say that those are obviously horrific, and we wouldn't want to reference them by name anyway. So conceptually, what word sort of strikes a negative reaction?
I really don't like the word crap, just because it sounds sort of outdated. I've definitely used it before, but it sounds really outdated as well. And like, I don't know, it's just, there's so many better words to like call something rubbish, like trash or garbage. So I just don't like that word. What about yourself?
What feeling does the word culty evoke in you?
Culty, it's quite an ironic one. I quite like culty because it's more of a Northern Irish thing, isn't it? So I quite like the culty.
Yes, because I've opted for the onomatopoeic farm folk when
Oh,
when
I
when
love that.
discussing
Love
when
fun.
discussing your personal life. But normally you would be considered a culture. But I'm sure there's a certain cringe
Farm
factor
folk,
for
love
some
it.
people who
Yeah,
don't believe themselves to be part of that group.
yeah, that's okay. So is culture your one?
No, culture is not my one. I would have to say uh, failure, just because that sort of makes me think of the concept of disappointing myself and others, and it sort of gets me into
Yeah,
an anxious state where I worry about the future. So I would say failure
yeah.
probably evokes one of the most
That's an emotional one, like, for
negative
sure,
reactions.
for sure. Like,
So
I
Matthew,
that's that. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, man.
this is phrased very weirdly, and you
Go
can
for it, man.
take this with whatever meaning you want,
Go
and
for it, buddy.
it's sort of a three option of meaning, and you take the one which seems least inappropriate to you.
Sure,
So,
man.
what turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Okay. We'll go for
We're in a
spirit.
creative medium, so
Yeah.
if you want to maybe talk creative, and then whatever other aspect of the question you want to cover.
What I really turn me on is definitely a funny word to phrase. What really sort of entices me into the creative process of making the podcast is just recording with you, and having the mic set up, the headphones, the laptop, the notes on the phone. It makes me feel important. It makes me feel, I just love how it makes me feel. It makes me feel important. It makes me feel professional, and I love sharing thoughts with you. So in that sense, I love that. But also, I love working in the thumbnails to see how I can make them pop off the screen. And obviously, my thumbnails are very basic to what other people are doing, but I just like making them, and also just seeing, like, on the YouTube, like this, doing the description as well. I do quite like that creatively as well. What about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, it would probably have to be for me. The idea that if I succeed in doing this one thing, it'll be like a building block to an achievement or a qualification.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Anytime I think about an exam, I think, if I do this creative piece of writing, where we're sort of analyzing something, then that'll lead to a result, which leads to me getting to university, which leads to getting a job. So it's really just sort of like the idea of doing something so that it acts as a building block for the
That's
future.
fantastic. Yeah, like a baby steps kind of thing, where it's like,
Yeah.
you're building on your success. That's fantastic, buddy. Absolutely awesome. And I definitely, yeah, empathize with that. Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
So Matthew, what sound or noise do you love?
I would say my favorite sound or noise, your laugh is honestly one of my favorite ones. Like, when you get really, like, really into a joke, or really in, like, if you find something really funny, like, your laugh is fantastic. What other noise do I like? I really like the old like movie intros of like, I think it was like, was it THX, where it was like, do you know what I mean? I don't know what it was called. It was like THX or DMX or something. I don't know what it was, but I really like that sort of movie intro.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I'm just like, copying from you. But yes, I too was going to say, the laugh of another person, that just says that you've made a successful joke.
Yeah.
I do think that, my favorite success is whenever I manage to make someone laugh, especially someone that I like.
Absolutely, man. There's no real better feeling than that, really, when you're having a good joke with someone, is there?
Yeah, I mean, especially yours, just because I think you're so animated and expressive, and I don't think the viewers would have got that unless they're able to see it as well. Because I think just the noise undersells it. It's the experience of seeing
Yeah.
you
Oh,
enjoy
so
something.
yeah, like there used to be a teacher that we know who's very expressive with his hand movements, isn't he? I think I've definitely taken aboard his expressions.
Yes, yeah, I love doing a bit of that. I think I've been a bit of like cutting shapes
Yeah,
today. A bit
yeah,
of because
exactly.
obviously I have my phone out for the
Yeah,
questioning, but
sure.
I think I've been a bit expressive. So
Absolutely,
Matthew,
brother.
fuck my life, what sound or noise do you hate?
Ooh, um, I really dislike the noise of like something dropping in the toilets. I really don't like that noise at all. Like we got yeah, just the plop. I hate that noise so much. What about yourself?
Well, it's
Or
pretty
just
much
pissing in
it's
the
pretty
toilet,
much
even I don't like that.
yeah, it's pretty much any noise that occurs on my street. Because I live in sort of like I live next to a couple of busy roads, but I wouldn't have expected, there's my road is just a line of houses, so I wouldn't expect much noise here. There's car alarms that go on for I mean, anytime I'm trying to revise for an exam, someone's car seems to be freaking out. So there's always car alarms going off, like business alarms. Recently there's been construction going on, which sounds like a robot orgy. So any noise that occurs on my street irritates me usually.
Yeah, no, and one thing I did mention, I really don't like nails scratching on a surface or something. Like I don't know if you can hear this, but like that, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, another for me is like dry hands rubbing together. Like that's sort of a weird
Yeah.
a weird one, but like just like the sort of like because I mean it just sounds like the picking of dead skin when just like dry hands are just like I
Yeah,
can't do it. But
I
it's
know,
it's
man.
horrific.
Definitely, bro. Definitely.
So Matthew, you're aware, and I'm sure the viewers are, that I myself have not had a job as of yet. And obviously in these trying times, this would be the summer of this year is when I wanted to sort of branch out and try and get a job.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
But really, the only jobs available right now are sort of assistant in retail. And of course you work at McDonald's. So if you weren't in the profession you are in now, and let's say like an achievable career with like what we've done with our lives so far, like what would you want to be in?
I would love to be an actor.
Lovely.
Love to be an actor, just to and we've spoken about like the introverted extroverted discussion before, but just to have like just to embody like a character. Like one of my favorite movies is Her, and I think that is just such Joaquin Phoenix is the definition of an actor in so many ways, and probably an actor or just involved in cinema production or something. What about yourself, buddy?
Sorry.
You're okay.
Yeah, for me, I have had some minor involvement in production, and that was sort of a fun thing to do on the side. But career focusing, uh, the next question is asking what career we would not like to do, and the career that I would never want to do would be being involved in food making, which is of course what you do. But I don't think I could hack the pressure. Like when we go into the city center and see the McDonald's there, and people are working furiously, and it looks boiling. And there's this huge pressure mounting, for you to be successful. I don't think that I could handle that. But where I would want to work is probably somewhere where I can interact with the youth. Because
Yeah,
I think that I have some decency in that area. So I've always
absolutely,
said that I
Callum.
would enjoy to work at Build a Bear, just because
Yeah,
I think
absolutely,
it's sort of
buddy.
retail done right. Because I sort of like I would like a positive workplace where there's not a lot of pressure. and sort of
Completely,
the
buddy.
closest thing to that in the UK would probably be Lush. But I think that's
Mm,
it's almost sort of like a cult like positivity that I don't think I could maintain, because I think they start the day smiling and end the day smiling, and I don't
true.
think I could handle that. But Build a Bear seems like a nice in the middle area for me.
Absolutely,
So
dude. Yeah.
Matthew, what career would you not like to do?
I would really not like to be a surgeon or like a paramedic involved in saving someone's life, because I think the guilt that you'd have if you messed up something or if you were late to something, I couldn't hack. And sometimes how you said about like cooking food, I just couldn't hack the pressure of being in charge of someone's life like that.
Yeah, I mean, being in charge of anything kind of scares me. A life is the worst case scenario. But I mean, even
Sure.
being in charge of, like, if I worked in something financial, which I never would, being, if there's a potential that someone could lose a lot of money because of a mistake I make, that's just an
Yeah,
amount of pressure that I don't think I could ever
absolutely. Me
handle.
too. Me too, buddy.
But Matthew, I believe this is like the staple of inside the actor studio. This is the most famous question I think they ask, which is, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
The fuck are you doing here? Yeah, it's probably that.
But, I mean, that's what you want to hear God say.
No, because I think it'd be funny. No, I'd say if what would I want to hear? Yeah, I'd probably say something funny like you know, I don't know, like I don't know, Satan's room's just down the street or something. I think that'll be quite funny. Just something quite funny. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, in a comedic sense, sure, like something, like, you were wrong, bitch. But
Yeah, exactly.
ideally, just say something, along the lines of, you deserve this. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but you know, if heaven exists, ideally I'd like to go there.
Sweet.
But once again, I'm not a particularly spiritual or religious person.
Yeah, me neither, man. Me neither. And I don't know. In terms of like a serious answer, probably like yeah, like you said, like you deserve this, or like you've worked hard for this, or something like that. Just the satisfaction. Yeah.
Yeah. So Matthew, that's all that I have for you today.
Awesome,
Those are all the
buddy.
questions that I have prepared.
Awesome. Well, I suppose I've got a few things down from suggestions from viewers. So it's not a lot, but it's just a few things that we've got from shout out the Solvable Mysteries podcast as well, and our friend Cash. So what are your top three favorite films?
So, this is sort of very recently changed. With the more sort of classic films that we decide to watch. The list is constantly shifting.
Sure.
One is always going to be About Time,
Oh,
and
great
I've
choice.
always been a fan of the romantic comedy genre, so that is always going to be number one. I don't think there's going to be a film that tops that. That makes me feel such happiness and such despair simultaneously.
Absolutely.
Uh, and with balancing incredible actors' performances. Two would probably be When Harry Met Sally, just because
Great shout.
of how optimistic that made me feel about romance. Because obviously, there's the sci-fi element to About Time that it doesn't exist in the real world. But When Harry Met Sally feels like a real story that could happen, and it sort of gives me hope and optimism, for a future love life. And third, that is difficult, but I would have to say it's probably Back to the Future, because I feel
Awesome.
like
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about like retroactive nostalgia about something that we never actually seen until our adulthood,
Sure.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
that when we watched it, we felt like a child experiencing it for the first time. And I would say this is probably the best example of that. I've had that with sort of Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark to a certain degree. But I would say Back to the Future is probably the epitome of that experience, where I
That's
go
fantastic,
back and it
Callum.
feels
Yeah.
as though I've seen it multiple times for all my
Oh,
life.
absolutely, absolutely. That's a great shout, buddy. Completely. For me, my top three. Number one, 500 Days of Summer. Number two, Before We Go, and number three, Gifted. So two of those are Mark Webb films, and two of them Starker Seven. So no, that's like the perfect combination for me. So that would be my top three. But the favorite films is definitely a thing where it's always changing, isn't it, Callum? It really is.
Yeah, it's constantly evolving. My top 10 especially, I think those top three aren't going to change for a while. But,
Sure.
like The Graduate, which we watched relatively recently, that sort of shot straight up into the top 10. Raising Arizona was sort of like bonked down to like 11 after we watched uh after we watched the likes of Jurassic Park. So it is constantly evolving, and I think that may well change in the near future. And if it ever does, I'm sure we'll do an episode covering
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Absolutely, Callum, absolutely. And you know what? I have a theme here that we could discuss, but I suppose we could leave it for part two of this episode if we'd like. And it's about bad cinema experiences. What do you think? Save it for the next episode or talk about it now?
I think talk about it now, because I would say, if you want to hear about individual experiences, we've talked about that in the DC episode. We've talked about that in our Marvel episode. You'll hear our experiences throughout. But what would you say is the absolute worst, Matthew?
I would say the worst cinema experience I've ever had is probably Kingsman 2 when we went to see it together. Now, I'd seen it,
Hmm.
luckily enough, I'd seen it before. I'd seen it with you, so it wasn't my first viewing of it like it was with you. But yeah, they were these like young, I would say they're probably a bit younger than us at the time. This is Kingsman 2, so what, like 2017? So we were right, yeah, 14, 15.
We were 15. They were maybe 13.
Yeah, and they were taking photos, selfies of us, well, of themselves, but we were probably in the background, and the flash was on
Oh
the
yeah, we were
camera.
in the background, and I said, "Oh, it'd be funny if I did the middle finger,
Yeah,
wouldn't it
yeah,
be?"
yeah,
And I did. So I hope they went home and saw that, and
yeah,
took a
absolutely.
good hard look at themselves.
Yeah, but bad cinema experience is not something I have a lot of. It's maybe like once every 3 years. It's not massively consistent at all. But what about yourself, Callum?
Yeah, mine's not frequent at all, but I would say the epitome, the worst, would be Avengers: Infinity War,
Oh
because
yeah,
there
yeah,
was obviously mounting excitement for this film. The trailer was one of the most viewed of all time. There was this huge sense of excitement for the film, and I hadn't really felt that, because I hadn't watched the trailer, so I wasn't feeling a huge amount of excitement for the film.
sure.
But I really wanted to see all these characters come together. I know overall it was an underwhelming experience, but it was made a lot worse by the fact that I was sat next to this pink-haired, outspoken woman, who every like 2 minutes or so would make a shouting commentary of the film.
Yeah,
Such examples of uh, you know, please don't let him die when Loki was being choked out. Uh,
annoying. Yeah,
there was a point where Bucky is gifted his arm by T'Challa, and she started chanting, "Give him his arm, give him his arm." And then when Bucky and Steve are finally reunited and they hug, she yelled, "Oh my God, it's so gay, I love it," which is a fantastic comment. Don't
absolutely.
say it at the midnight screening of a film that I've been waiting 10 years to see.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. And yeah, that I'd imagine like that would be really bad to be, especially for a hyped film like that was the most hyped film probably for you at the time of all time. So yeah, man, that's a great show. That's a great show. We went to see a lot of films together, and luckily enough, the bad experiences haven't been too common, but it makes a good podcast story nonetheless.
Indeed.
Absolutely. But I don't have any more remarks to say about this episode. Do you anything from you, brother?
No, I suppose just an introduction into what we'll be talking about next week. Sorry, next episode. We've
Yeah,
talked about this at the beginning. We'll be doing some would you rather situations. Where I ask Matthew some confronting questions. I found a website. It had about 220, so I'll just be asking the highlights really,
sure.
and then we'll be talking about future projections and ideas we have for the channel. And I guess we'll ask now, and we'll ask at the end of that episode. If you have any suggestions for a potential name of the channel, because we're aware that movie mates sometimes is hard to find, just because there are a couple other results that come up. We're obviously the most popular, obviously,
Without doubt.
but just to differentiate ourselves,
Yeah.
if you had any name suggestions, leave them below on this episode or the part two of this 50th episode spectacular.
Sure, but listen, man, if that's everything from you, shall we wrap up the episode then? Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Anyways, man, well, thank you so much for today, Callum. The questions were amazing, and I appreciate the work you've went into to source them. So thank you very much, man. This has been one of my favorite episodes we've recorded. It's more of a candid discussion about getting to know ourselves, and I'd love to do more of these in the future with you, just to get in the know. Because we got into a few emotional chats today, didn't we, buddy? Which was it's good to have those chats. It's important to have those chats.
Yeah, because I think it'll be hard finding the stories that we've told in the past, like throughout the movies, because sometimes there's just a theme, and it sort of brings up an idea that we like to discuss,
Sure.
in
Yeah.
more detail on that episode. But I think this is an easy episode to find, where we sort of go into a lot of stories.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, but yeah, thank you very much for today, Callum. A pleasure seeing you, and thank you everyone. Thank you very much to everyone who's listened to this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and thank you so much again, guys. Thank you to all our friends who've supported us and subscribed to us and stuff. We really, really do appreciate it. But yeah, thank you very much, Callum. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Bye bye.